A shadow has fallen across Port Charles, and if whispers prove true, the coming storm will not merely rattle the town, it will shatter it. Rumors swirl that Willow and her young son Y could perish in a horrific car accident, marking a devastating exit for Katelyn MacMullen from General Hospital. If that unimaginable tragedy unfolds, it would signal not only the end of a beloved character's journey, but the beginning of a dark reckoning, one that feels like a baptism by fire for everyone left standing in the wreckage. For nearly a year, viewers have watched Drew Cain spiral downward in a way that has been both shocking and infuriating. Once portrayed as a noble hero willing to risk everything for the people he loved, Drew has transformed into a man nearly unrecognizable. Time and again, just when it seemed he could sink no lower, he proved everyone wrong by doing something even more outrageous. Each misstep felt like another plunge into murky waters, another cleansing of conscience that never quite took. Instead of redemption, Drew found moral decay. There was a time when Drew's sacrifices defined him. He risked his life for Carly. He fought to protect Willow. He carried himself with chivalry and quiet strength. That version of Drew now feels like a ghost. In its place stands a man who betrayed his own family by sleeping with his nephew's wife after secretly engaging in an affair with that wife's mother. The tangled web of deception unraveled spectacularly when nanny cam footage exposed the truth, leaving Michael devastated and fighting not only for his children, but for his very survival. Even then, Drew did not retreat. Instead of showing remorse, he inserted himself into Michael and Willow's custody battle, manipulating circumstances to his advantage. Many fans still bristle at the memory of Drew encouraging Willow to use Michael's medical crisis as leverage. It was a moment that felt like a moral freefall, the kind that leaves scorch marks. As if that weren't enough, Drew clashed with Tracy Cordam, believing his newfound political influence would shield him from consequences. But Tracy's bark, as he discovered, is matched and often surpassed by her bite. Backed by Monica, she stripped him not only of his welcome at the Cordamain mansion, but of the Cordain name itself. For a man obsessed with status and power, that humiliation cut deep. Yet rather than reflect, Drew doubled down. He set his sights on Sonny Corinthos' peer, vowing to take it away. He antagonized Carly at every turn. He blackmailed Portia. He locked horns with Curtis. Every move felt like an escalation, as though he were daring the universe to stop him. Encouraging words from those who once believed in him fell on deaf ears. Drew seemed determined to embrace his role as Port Charles's newest villain. And then came the guardianship papers. In a move that left many scratching their heads, Willow signed documents naming Drew as guardian of her children should anything happen to her. The legality of such an arrangement, given that Michael is alive and well, remains murky. Still, in the unpredictable world of soap opera logic, such a bold decision rarely goes untested. What if those papers were more than a precaution? What if they were foreshadowing? Imagine the unthinkable. Willow driving along a rain-slick highway, Y in the back seat, laughter echoing moments before metal collides with metal, screeching tires, shattered glass, sirens piercing the night. Or perhaps Willow boards a plane to visit Michael overseas, only for tragedy to strike mid-air. However it happens, the result is the same: devastation. If Willow and Y were to die in that accident, Port Charles would be plunged into collective mourning. Michael's grief would be indescribable. Carly's anguish would ripple through every corner of her life. The Cordains, the Corinthoses, the Spencers, all would feel the aftershock. But amid that heartbreak, one man might see opportunity. Drew, armed with guardianship documents and a hunger for control, could step into the void. If Willow were merely incapacitated, unable to advocate for herself, Drew could use the situation to seize authority over the children she shared with Michael. If she were gone entirely, the implications would be even more explosive. Would Drew show compassion, or would he wield those children like chess pieces? Given his recent trajectory, it is difficult to imagine mercy guiding his hand. Instead, he might use the children as leverage in his ongoing feuds. He could threaten the Cordanes, restore my name, or lose access to the kids. He could pressure Sonny, relinquish the peer, or say goodbye to your grandchildren. He could punish Carly, barring her from seeing why in a spiteful display of dominance. Such actions would not merely cross a line, they would obliterate it. The very thought feels grotesque, yet Drew's pattern of behavior suggests that nothing is off limits anymore. This is a man who has embraced manipulation as strategy, who has justified cruelty as necessity. In his mind, he may believe he is protecting the children from perceived enemies, but protection rooted in vengeance is a dangerous illusion. And then is the darker possibility. What if Willow's accident were not an accident at all? It is chilling to consider, but given Drew's increasingly ruthless choices, one cannot entirely dismiss the idea that he might orchestrate chaos to remove obstacles.
Hiring someone to stage a kidnapping or create a temporary disappearance just long enough to consolidate power would be a move straight from a villain's playbook. It sounds monstrous, it sounds unforgivable, and yet, over the past year, Drew has chipped away at the boundaries that once defined him. If he were capable of engineering such a scheme, it would mark the final stage of his transformation. The baptism would be complete, not a cleansing into righteousness, but an immersion into darkness. Still, even in the bleakest scenarios, soap operas thrive on redemption arcs. Could tragedy become the catalyst that forces Drew to confront himself? If Willow and Y were truly lost, the weight of that grief might crack even the hardest shell. Standing at a graveside, listening to eulogies filled with love and light, Drew might finally recognize how far he has fallen. Encouraging words from unexpected allies could pierce through his armor. Perhaps Carly, despite everything, would remind him of the man he used to be. Perhaps Michael, in a moment of unimaginable strength, would urge him to honor Willow's memory by choosing compassion over control. But redemption would not come easily. The families of Port Charles would not sit idly by if Drew attempted to exploit tragedy. Angry threats would echo through the Quartermain halls. Sonny would not hesitate to defend his own. Curtis, already at odds with Drew, would draw a hard line. Even Tracy, formidable as ever, would sharpen her resolve. "You will not use those children as bargaining chips," she might declare, her voice cold as steel. Sonny's warning would be quieter, but no. Hiring someone to stage a kidnapping or create a temporary disappearance just long enough to consolidate power would be a move straight from a villain's playbook. It sounds monstrous, it sounds unforgivable. And yet, over the past year, Drew has chipped away at the boundaries that once defined him. If he were capable of engineering such a scheme, it would mark the final stage of his transformation. The baptism would be complete, not a cleansing into righteousness, but an immersion into darkness. Still, even in the bleakest scenarios, soap operas thrive on redemption arcs. Could tragedy become the catalyst that forces Drew to confront himself? If Willow and Y were truly lost, the weight of that grief might crack even the hardest shell. Standing at a graveside, listening to eulogies filled with love and light, Drew might finally recognize how far he has fallen. Encouraging words from unexpected allies could pierce through his armor. Perhaps Carly, despite everything, would remind him of the man he used to be. Perhaps Michael, in a moment of unimaginable strength, would urge him to honor Willow's memory by choosing compassion over control. But redemption would not come easily. The families of Port Charles would not sit idly by if Drew attempted to exploit tragedy. Angry threats would echo through the Quartermain halls. Sonny would not hesitate to defend his own. Curtis, already at odds with Drew, would draw a hard line. Even Tracy, formidable as ever, would sharpen her resolve. "You will not use those children as bargaining chips," she might declare, her voice cold as steel. Sonny's warning would be quieter, but no less lethal. Push me on this and you'll regret it. In that crucible of fury and grief, Drew would have to choose: continue down the path of isolation and hostility, or step back from the brink. If Katelyn MacMullen were indeed exiting the canvas in such dramatic fashion, the ripple effects would extend far beyond one storyline. Willow's death would reshape alliances, deepen rivalries, and redefine motivations. Michael's journey would take a darker turn. Carly's protective instincts would ignite, and Drew's fate would hang precariously in the balance. Because tragedy has a way of exposing truth. It strips away pretense. It forces introspection. It demands accountability. Whether this rumored accident becomes reality or remains speculation, one thing is certain: Drew's actions over the past year have positioned him at a crossroads. He can continue to descend, embracing manipulation and cruelty as tools of survival, or he can allow loss, real, gut-wrenching loss, to cleanse him, to remind him of the hero he once was. Port Charles stands on edge, bracing for impact. If Willow and Wai's lives are indeed cut short, it will not simply be an exit, it will be an earthquake. And in the aftermath, every character will face a reckoning. Baptisms are meant to symbolize rebirth, but rebirth only comes after surrender. The question now is whether Drew Cain is capable of surrendering his pride before it costs him everything. General Hospital spoilers reveal that March will bring some jaw-dropping moments, so we've got an instigative exercise for you. Observers will see plenitude of surprising news, fierce face-offs, unraveling mystifications, and so much more. For starters, Sonny Corinthos and ADA Justine Turner's spark could come a roaring honey. Still, playing with fire frequently leads to getting burned on detergents, so both Justine and Sonny had better be careful. Rick Lansing should also be careful with his heart, since he putatively isn't the only one interested in Elizabeth Baldwin. Although Rick will start allowing about a renewed future with Liz, Dante Falconer just might ask her out on a date and change the game soon enough. As for Molly Lansing Davis and Cody Bell, they'll continue to get their relationship back on the right track. Cody will prove to be a probate of Swain by serving as a confidant to Molly in the coming weeks. Michael Corinthos will have an analogous story going on, since he'll advance his sympathetic observance to Jacinda Bracken, who open up about her delicate history and reveal some effects to suckers as well. Jordan Ashford's gestation test could also bring some life-changing results for multiple characters, especially Curtis Ashford. On another note, it looks like Jocelyn Jacks may discover Valentine Cassadine in Carly Spencer's garret and throw their alliance into fermentation. Carly and Valentine will ultimately reach an agreement, so they may decide it's time for him to move on and find another caching spot. Rocco Falconer will play a part in one GH character departing the aisle, so will that be Valentine or indeed someone like Jason Morgan? Anyhow, Jason is indeed headed for the exit door, so the pens will no doubt give him a shocking salutation. Some peril has presumably headed Jason's way, so we'll see if he might vanish thanks to menacing Ross column. Britt Westbourne will be devastated over Jason's departure, but she may have problems of her own to worry about if Cullum and Jen Sidwell find out she's betrayed them. Meanwhile, Harrison Chase and Brooklyn Quartermain may realize a new path to relinquishment has dropped right into their stages. Willow Cain will also have to deal with Sidwell's demands, while Kai Taylor potentially snoops and gets near to the verity about what she did to Drew Cain. As for Lulu Spencer and Nathan West, they'll strengthen their bond and navigate the fate of Maxie Jones, chancing out the verity about their new connection. General Hospital spoilers say March will bring all that and a whole lot more, so stay tuned. General Hospital News says that if there's anything that we've learned about Steve Burton over the times, it's that he's not only a great cleaner pieces actor, but he's also someone that's veritably devoted to his family life. General Hospital News, is Steve Burton quitting Port Charles again? That's why there's some Enterprise suggesting that one of the reasons why he decided to step back from his part as Jason Morgan on the hit ABC Cleaner is because he demanded a little time off to spend with his woman, Michelle Lunstom.